All right, this is a coordinate plane, and we have points on the coordinate plane, and you can turn on and off the points on this left side. By the way, to view the left side is algebra view. If you uncheck it, it goes away. Algebra view. Okay, so I can turn on and off points. And if I go to the move tool on the left, I could highlight a point, drag it to different spots. This grid now is set at whole number increments, so the points snap to places on the grid. I am going to add a new point now. So that is this tool with the little A. It's your add new point tool. If I go to the, so you can see the different tools, but this one is new point. And I can just click somewhere and I get a point. And under the options, under point capturing, I have my on grid turned on. That means when I add a new point, it's always going to try to add to a grid intersection. Okay, this point gets added in blue. I don't want it in blue. So there's a lot of different ways that with this big of a picture, I can right click on the point and you can change some of the properties of the point, like you can change turn on and off the label. But the easiest thing to do is to go to object properties, and then I can change all the properties of this point. So this point H, I want to show the label, but I want its value, and that gives me the X and Y coordinates. I'll change the color to black. And in this case, since I want you to tell you which point is which, I'm going to make this point big just for fun. By the way, under basic, this is the value. You can change the value of the point to anything you want manually as well. And you don't really need to know this. Okay, so let's say I want to just change that manually. I could have done it in the object properties, but an easier way to do it is to just double click there, and then I can, and this way I can get it off grid as well. So I'll change it to 3.5, comma 6, and so see how it moves off grid. Or you can turn the snap to grid off again in the options menu. Under point capturing, I could turn that off, and then I can drag the point to any spot. To enlarge or shrink your total coordinate grid, you use your scroll wheel on your mouse as the easiest way to do it. But wherever the crosshairs are, that's your anchor point, and it zooms in and out from that spot. So like if I started over here, it would like grow to the right or shrink. So if I want to move the grid around or move my coordinate, that's the far right tool to move the whole view around, and then I can drag it and center it. I don't know that there's an auto center. I haven't actually played with that, but you can just go in and out. Now the only thing that it doesn't have that I kind of wish it had was for elementary algebra, it only has the positive and negative arrows. It doesn't have the arrows going to the left, but that's the way it goes. Okay, so to change the values of things, let's say you wanted to change the, almost all of it is done in graphics view and objects menu. Um, so let's say you want these grid lines at different numbers. You go to grid, and I can do grid lines every 2 and every 2. Okay, I could change the color of my grid to light green, let's say, and then I have to click OK. So it's green. I don't know if you can see that. I can turn the grid off or on. Okay, under axes, I have both an x-axis and a y-axis. The axes are pre-labeled with x and y. You can't really move where that is, but you could create a label for the axis, a different label for the axis. Under line style, you can make it a little thicker if you want to do. And you can show ticks, different options. And the numbers and distance is, the distance is how often do you want a tick, and the numbers is do you want the numbers to show up or not. So in this case I have a tick every 5, and I can change that tick to every 1 or every 2. Let's do it every 2 since that's the grid thing. And I could do that on the y-axis too if I wanted to. If I can give it a unit. You have units to select from, but so it adds those to the numbers. I don't know if you can see that. Or go to the blank and it turns off the unit, or I could type in a unit. So I can type in my own unit like FT and it should add that in. Go to blank. And again with label, there's the X label, and I could change that to one of these weird symbols, or I could leave it blank by selecting the top part, or I could just delete it, or I can type in something. So I can say like T and then maybe in parentheses seconds. And then you can see that there. See, and I don't think, I'll try that, but I don't think you can move those labels. No. So if you want like traditional XY labels, I can show you that later when we do a quadrant 1 type of thing. That's where you have more like real world graphing, and you want to put real world labels on the XY axis. But this is you have to do that in the beta version of GeoGebra to get just the quadrant 1. So for now we have all 4 quadrants. And let's see, what else did I want to show you in the graphics view I showed you. There will be a time when, let's say you want the x-axis to go from like 0 to 10. So let's make that 0 to 10, or negative 10 to 10 approximately. And again, I'll go to my move tool and move it around a little bit. Okay, but you need the y-axis to be different. So let's say the y-axis is going to go from 100 to 100. So that means that there's a scaling of like 100 or 10 to 1. So what we'll do is we'll go to the options menu, again under graphics view. And under this x-axis to y-axis, we'll do 1 to 10. And that'll make the y-axis go from negative 100 to positive 100. But you see now my grid is all whacked out when I do that. So you first have to change the numbering, do that first, and then change the grid. So now that my numbering is correct, then I can go to grid, and in my y distance, since it was 1 to 10, I'm going to do 2 to 20 to keep that same ratio, and then I'll get square grids. If I didn't do that and I just said 2 to 10, I'd still have grids, but they wouldn't be square, they'd be rectangular. So if I keep the same ratio, I'll have square grids. So that is graphing numbers.